The moment Jungkook's solo track, 7, resurfaced on American streaming platforms earlier this week, something strange began to happen. Within 24 hours, it climbed into the top 10 of Spotify US, outpacing new releases by major American artists. Within 48 hours, it overtook several Billboard Hot 100 entries that had dominated radio for weeks. And by the third day, it wasn't just trending, it was being declared a standard. American radio DJs from New York to LA couldn't stop playing it. Z100, Kiss FM, iHeartRadio, and even genre-specific stations that traditionally steer clear of non-English music made the rare move of putting 7 into high rotation. Not as a token K-pop hit, not as a novelty, but as a song that listeners are demanding over and over again, as one program director explained. But what's really behind this surge? According to Billboard analysts, the American music industry has shifted into what they're now calling the Jungkook phase. Not because of marketing, but because of merit. His song 7, originally released before his military enlistment, has taken on a new life. With its smooth R&B pop fusion, sultry vocals, and catchy hooks, it has become an unexpected anthem for American summer playlists. More shockingly, the track is being studied in US music academies. Top vocal coaches have released YouTube breakdowns of Jungkook's phrasing, breath control, and timbral flexibility. Grammy-winning producers have tweeted praise, calling his tone world-class and his delivery pure commercial perfection. One veteran music critic even declared, if this song were released by an American artist, it would already be nominated for Song of the Year. And it's not just talk. The numbers prove it. Over 2 million streams a day on US Spotify alone. Shazammed more than any other track in the country this week. Added to more curated playlists than any Korean solo track in history. And in a move that stunned even the label insiders, a remix of 7 featuring a major American rapper is now in production because they reached out to him. The question now isn't whether Jungkook's music is being accepted in America. It's why it took this long for the gates to fully open. Because what's happening now isn't cultural curiosity, it's sonic dominance. And just when the industry thought they understood his sound, another shock landed. A mysterious snippet, only 10 seconds long, surfaced from inside a studio in Los Angeles. It's unmistakably his voice, but the production? Completely different. Gritty, cinematic, darker. And the beat? Something tailor-made for US airwaves. Within minutes, speculation soared. Is Jungkook working on an English album? Will this be the first Korean solo act to win a Grammy in a major category? Is this the artist the American music industry has been waiting for? If the early numbers, reviews, and real-time reactions are any indicator, the answer is yes. Jungkook isn't just charting in America, he's shaping what the charts will sound like next. And the best part, he hasn't even officially released anything new yet. Is it possible for one artist from outside the United States to completely shift the momentum of the most competitive music market in the world, without releasing anything new? In the case of Jungkook, the answer is a clear and resounding yes. Following the explosive resurgence of his solo track, 7, across US platforms, the American music industry is undergoing what executives are now quietly calling a recalibration. But what does that mean? And why is Jungkook's name being spoken in every corner of the business? From radio to record labels to streaming analytics teams, it all starts with performance. 7 has not only re-entered the conversation, it's dominating it. American radio programmers who once saw non-English music as niche are now placing Jungkook in regular daytime rotation. Top 40 stations from New York to Houston are reporting unusually high listener engagement. Several regional networks have even adjusted their summer programming to accommodate rising demand for his sound, and the data supports the excitement. Spotify US shows over 2 million daily plays for 7. Apple Music has listed the track on multiple genre playlists simultaneously: pop, R&B, chill, even dance. Shazam data shows spikes in areas where BTS had never trended before: the Midwest, parts of the South, and college radio cities where fan bases are often slower to adopt international acts. But what's truly shocking isn't the fan-driven momentum, it's the internal industry response. Multiple US radio executives have gone on record stating that Jungkook is now one of the few global artists whose songs can be added into rotation without testing. That is, they skip the usual focus groups and pre-release trials. The song simply works, and the audience makes that instantly clear point. One prominent music researcher explained it this way: "We're not adding him to check a box. We're adding him because his songs outperform domestic hits on key listener metrics." At the same time, critics and writers across America's top music publications have begun reshaping the way they talk about Jungkook. No longer just the youngest member of BTS, outlets like Pitchfork, Rolling Stone, and Billboard are referring to him as a vocal leader and a global solo force. His tone, his control, his restraint, these are now being dissected and praised at the same level as long-established American vocalists. And perhaps the most telling development is this: Jungkook's presence in the US conversation no longer requires context. American audiences, casual listeners, older generations, even new fans, are engaging with his voice and music without needing an introduction. They aren't asking, "Who is this?" They're asking, "Where can I hear more?" This is rare. Exceptionally rare, because in the US industry, attention is fast. Trends rise and collapse weekly. But Jungkook's impact is not a trend. It's a restructuring. A shift in how international music is perceived, consumed, and elevated. For years, American labels have tried to figure out how to break Korean artists into the mainstream. Now, for the first time, it feels like the mainstream is chasing the artist. All of this, and Jungkook has remained silent. No new song. No teaser. No press conference. Only the power of one track that refuses to disappear. And so the question remains: how long can one song hold a nation's ear? In Jungkook's case, it seems the answer is indefinitely. Because what's happening now isn't a temporary surge. It's a sign. A signal that the US music industry is finally embracing what fans have known for years. Jungkook doesn't need to adapt to America. America is adjusting to him. What does it take for an international artist to go from global star to American music standard? Is it viral success? Cultural momentum? Pure vocal talent? In Jungkook's case, it appears to be all three, and something more: undeniable media endorsement. Over the past week, as Seven continues its unrelenting rise across US streaming platforms and radio airplay charts, American media outlets have moved in a direction no one saw coming. The coverage has shifted from curiosity to credibility, from K-pop idol to pop innovator, from feature subject to headline maker. The shift began subtly. First, it was Billboard, with a front-page digital feature titled, "Jungkook is not just global, he's the blueprint for pop's next chapter." Then, Rolling Stone followed with a midweek editorial praising his voice as the most emotionally accessible vocal in mainstream music right now. The article didn't reference BTS. It didn't frame him as an offshoot or a former member. It framed him as a movement, the kind of artist whose appeal stretches across language, culture, and industry expectation. But the tipping point came when the New York Times ran a review of Seven that ended with a sentence that shook the editorial world. "This isn't K-pop breaking into America. This is America learning how to listen again." For an industry often guarded against change, these words landed like a verdict. Podcasts from NPR, Apple Music's Zane Lowe, and even SiriusXM's Alt Nation began discussing Jungkook, not as an outsider, but as a game changer. An artist who defies boundaries, who doesn't ask for entry into the US market, but simply commands attention. Hosts repeatedly noted how his music doesn't ask for translation, it demands emotion. Across editorial boards, writers are now exploring a question that even a year ago would have seemed unlikely. Is Jungkook leading a shift in American pop's emotional core? In a time when American chart music has become increasingly driven by algorithm-friendly hooks and formulaic production, Seven has been received as something refreshingly honest. Its lyrics are clear, its message bold, and its tone heartbreakingly smooth. Critics describe it as intimate without trying, sophisticated without being pretentious, and, perhaps most notably, universal. Yet, despite the growing American praise, Jungkook himself remains completely silent. No new interviews, no press runs, no appearances on American late-night television. This is perhaps what makes the media coverage so extraordinary. The demand isn't being fed, it's building itself at an age where most artists rise through exposure. Jungkook is rising through absence. The reviews keep coming, the praise keeps growing, and the American public, critics, and influencers are now asking, how long can this silence last before it erupts into something even bigger? Because if this is the impact of a single release track, what happens when Jungkook finally speaks? What happens when the media has more than one masterpiece to write about? For now, the coverage only grows more intense. The headlines are shifting daily, but the message is steady. Jungkook isn't just being welcomed by America. He's being studied, celebrated, and increasingly depended on. A quiet revolution is unfolding. And Jungkook stands at the center of it, not as a guest in the American music house, but as the architect of a new blueprint. How did a Korean language artist, with just one solo song released, suddenly find a home in the daily playlists of American listeners who don't even follow K-pop? The answer lies not in algorithms or fandom machinery, but in something far more powerful: organic connection. As streaming data continues to reveal surprising numbers, music analysts across major US platforms are reporting a consistent trend. Jungkook is not just being streamed by BTS fans. He's being discovered, enjoyed, and saved by people who have no previous history with him, or with K-pop at all. Listeners aged 30 to 45 in mid-sized American cities are replaying 7 more than many domestic releases. Suburban fathers have posted TikToks lip-syncing to the chorus. Mothers are adding the song to their Chill Drive playlists. College students in New England are requesting the track on local campus radio stations. And perhaps most shockingly, public playlists labeled Morning Coffee, Workout Flow, and Relax and Unwind are organically featuring Jungkook alongside Ed Sheeran, SZA, and The Weeknd. These aren't fan-curated. They're real, user-generated lists from people who had no idea who Jungkook was a year ago. So what changed? The answer, according to a Spotify editorial manager based in Chicago, is simple. His voice doesn't sound like it's trying to impress you. It just connects. And that's rare now. Listeners describe it the same way. Not flashy, not overly produced, just clean, elegant, emotional. A voice that slides through the melody without force. A presence that makes you lean in rather than turn up the volume. It's the kind of vocal that feels like it knows you, even when the words are unfamiliar. On Reddit, a thread titled, "Why Am I Obsessed with Jungkook's 7 and I've Never Listened to BTS?" has reached over 10,000 upvotes. The top comment reads, "It's not even about the genre or the language. It's just beautiful music. That's all." The response isn't limited to urban areas or online communities. In cafes across Florida, Oregon, and Michigan, 7 plays on loop without any raised eyebrows. It simply fits the vibe. It slides effortlessly between Ariana Grande and Harry Styles. Customers nod. Some Shazam it. Others already know the chorus. Local radio hosts are picking up on this too. In Minneapolis, a morning show DJ commented live on air, "I had no idea who Jungkook was, and now I can't get enough of this track." He then played it twice in the same hour. An unusual move for non-sponsored radio. In Atlanta, a late-night FM host confessed, "I didn't think I'd be putting a Korean solo artist into my playlist, but this song hits deeper than most of the American stuff I've had on rotation all year." This is not hype. It's not a marketing stunt. It's resonance. And what's truly remarkable is that the shift is happening without Jungkook saying a word. No press appearances. No American interviews to explain himself. No need. People are simply finding the music. And they're staying for it. What does this say about where American ears are going? For years, the US pop landscape has been saturated with high-concept marketing, viral hooks, and choreographed personas. But Jungkook enters the space with nothing but sincerity, and somehow, it's louder than everything else. He doesn't knock on the door of the American music market. He walks through it like he's already home. And for many Americans who never thought they'd be fans of an international artist, the surprise is personal. They weren't convinced by YouTube trends or fan tweets. They were convinced by feeling, by tone, by a melody that reached them when they didn't expect it. Now the question is no longer, who is Jungkook? It's when is the next song coming? Because once an artist makes strangers feel seen, without speaking their language, they're not just an artist anymore, they're a phenomenon. How does one voice, one song, and one silent presence shift the cultural vocabulary of an entire industry? That's the question critics and music analysts in the US are now grappling with, as Jungkook continues to redefine what success, appeal, and emotional resonance mean in the American music scene. And as more evidence rolls in, one thing is becoming undeniable. This isn't just a music story, it's a cultural moment. For decades, the American music industry operated with unspoken rules. Rules about language, image, cultural proximity, and marketability. Non-English music could go viral, but rarely stuck. Global artists could sell out shows, but seldom saw sustained radio play. Yet somehow, without a massive media campaign or a new release, Jungkook has triggered a silent undoing of that system. 7 wasn't just a hit, it was a disruption. And now, media experts are publicly acknowledging that a lead columnist for Vulture described Jungkook's rise in America as a glitch in the algorithm that became the new code. In a panel on CNN Culture, an entertainment historian boldly stated, "Jungkook is a reset point, a recalibration. What's happening with him feels less like an exception and more like the start of a new model." Why? Because the numbers and the narratives simply don't align with the traditional paths. There was no viral TikTok challenge, no late-night talk show circuit, no drama, just music. And not just any music. Music that made American critics admit they were wrong about what mainstream really means. In an op-ed titled "The End of American-Centric Pop," a senior editor at Billboard wrote, "Jungkook's voice doesn't need validation through the usual American machines. It lands on your chest and stays there. He makes you listen because you want to, not because the trend tells you to." From the Los Angeles Times to The Atlantic, the language used around Jungkook is no longer comparative. It's declarative. He's not the Korean answer to Justin Bieber or the next The Weeknd. He's Jungkook, a name that now stands on its own, stripped of modifiers, explained by nothing but emotional impact and sonic clarity. And the implications go beyond music. Pop culture sociologists from Stanford and Northwestern are now studying the Jungkook phenomenon as a case study in cultural reversal, where the West is no longer the sole exporter of popular identity, but an eager importer. The idea that an American listener can feel deeply connected to a non-English song without first understanding the artist's backstory is being hailed as a milestone in the evolution of global empathy through sound. Even more telling, Variety recently released a forecast report for 2025 to 2026, predicting that more major labels will begin scouting international artists not based on how they can localize, but on how deeply their authenticity can cross borders without translation and what name. Headlines that report, Jungkook, the same Jungkook who, as of today, has not granted a single post-release interview in America. The same Jungkook whose music is being replayed in university lecture halls, editorial meetings, fitness centers, cafes, and even baby sleep playlists. He doesn't demand space. He earns it quietly, over and over again. What fascinates the critics most is the contrast. An artist with superstar presence, but zero ego in his delivery. A vocal that can fill a stadium, but chooses intimacy. A song that soared to global heights by whispering rather than screaming, and so the shift becomes clear. Where American pop once thrived on spectacle, Jungkook brings stillness. Where chart toppers often follow formulas, Jungkook breaks them with grace. And while other artists fight for space on the playlist, he floats to the top, effortlessly. So now the industry isn't just watching, it's learning. And the biggest lesson, that sometimes the future doesn't announce itself with noise or drama, but with a voice so clear, so precise, so human, that even an empire built on loudness pauses to listen.